Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am very excited to be trying out the brand new Revolution Pro Full Cover Camouflage Foundation and Full Cover Camouflage Concealer. If you don't know, Makeup Revolution have basically come out with a whole new brand called Revolution Pro, which is supposed to be their pro product. So they have two foundations, this one and a drop foundation. They've got a new concealer, they've got a load of new eyeshadow palettes, eyebrow products, lip products, the list goes on. But these were the two things that I was really excited to try, and that is the foundation and concealer. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I really love the Conceal and Define concealer, and I also really enjoyed the stick foundations with their normal Makeup Revolution brand. The Revolution Pro is still a really affordable brand, but it's supposed to be more pro level products and still keeping their really affordable price tag, although everything is like £1 or £2 more than their regular Makeup Revolution line. Shade matching with all of their sticks and concealers and this foundation has been an issue for me. There is only 18 shades in everything, which is pretty good for a concealer, but not very good for a foundation. The issue I had with the sticks was that F6 was much too light for me. F7 was too peachy and just didn't sit right on my skin. F8 is the closest match I have, and I'm like an NC25 at the moment. So I picked up the same shades that I use in the sticks. So this is the shade F8, and with the concealer, the shade C5, and I'm gonna show you some swatches right now. Here is F6 in the stick foundation, F7, which is supposed to be peachy, but looks quite pink actually in comparison to F6, which is straight yellow. And this is F8 in the camouflage foundation, so that's this new one. So this is F8, which you can see is more of a sort of orangey warm undertone, I guess. And here are the two concealers. So this is the Full Cover Camouflage and this is the Conceal and Define. So they look pretty close in shade, but they definitely seem to have slightly different undertones. So, I mean, packaging wise, I'm not really a fan. I like the black, but it doesn't look expensive or like, I don't know, it's very travel friendly. That's kind of the best thing I can say about it. It doesn't really excite me, but you know, it is what it is. They're both squeezy tubes, no pumps, so it's all very easy to use and get all of the product out, which I guess is all a plus. I'm just being snobby, let's be honest. You do only get 25ml, which is annoying me because Revolution, I feel like they keep skimping us on product. They only had 6 grams in their sticks, which is a really small amount. The concealers only had 3 mils, 3.4 mils, which is a really poor amount, like half of what you would really expect and almost a third of what you get in like a Shape Tape. The concealer in the Revolution Pro actually has 8.5 mils, which is way better. So I'm really pleased that they've actually maybe listened or reflected on the amount of concealer that we're getting, and we've got now considerably more in the new concealer. It is supposed to be waterproof, non-transferring, no SPF and long wearing, although it doesn't give a specific number of hours, and it says it has a natural finish, so we will see about that. The concealer claims to be full coverage but doesn't give a finish, so again we will see about that. As always, if you have any questions about any of these products I haven't answered, please ask me and I will do my best to answer them down below for you. But without further ado, let's get them on my face. As always, before any foundation review, I am going to go and prime with my MAC Prep and Prime, because it is your very standard primer. It just gives us a base for the foundation to go on top of without making it more luminous, more matte, or doing any huge amount of smoothing or anything like that. So we are just gonna see the foundation work by itself. So it doesn't seem to have any particular smell, and I've just put it onto my palette here and it is not moving. Maybe it's starting to move a little bit. It looks very thick. I have no idea how much we're going to need, so I'm going to start off quite light with my brush and we will see. Okay, it is quite thick. So it's definitely looking really dewy at the moment. It definitely went on like a thicker foundation, like there was quite a lot of drag, but at the same time it hasn't been hard to blend it out. There's not really much brush strokes or anything like that to speak of. Like it looks really flawless, it looks really even. I'd say it's like a solid medium to full. Now I wouldn't say it's like crazy full, but let's see how we go on with the sponge. Colour is actually looking fine now. I was thinking it was going to dry down really like orangey, but it's really not. It actually looks fine, and as I said, in a few weeks time I will have caught a bit of sun and then it will probably be perfect. I'm really not seeing any difference whatsoever between the brush and the sponge. They've both gone on really evenly. I'd say a very similar amount of coverage. Like my redness is all like totally gone, but you can just about see beauty marks. So I'm gonna say it's like medium to full. Really had no issue with brush strokes, which given that it felt so sort of, you know, stiff to drag and put on, and it does feel thick and heavy. Thought I was going to get like a really cakey application and one that really needed to use a beauty blender, because otherwise it will leave, you know, streaks and just go on patchy, but it hasn't at all. Okay, so I've zoomed you in and turned my lights down so you can see how dewy this is, which for me, loving life. But obviously if you are an oily skin girl, this might be too much. I think it looks really smooth and flawless. It's definitely not exaggerating texture. In fact, it may be a little smoothing on my texture around my mouth. It has sunk immediately badly into my smile lines. You know, I can kind of forgive that. My forehead looks okay, not the best, not the worst right now, but yeah, really dewy right now. So now for the concealer, and I'm really not expecting this shade to work because it did look so different from the Conceal and Define, which is my right shade. Wow, okay. So I'm just squeezing this out, and this is really hard to squeeze out, really hard. Which I mean, presumably means it is very thick. Like I almost couldn't get any out. Wow, that is thick, guys. I am scared. Okay. It's the thickest concealer by quite some way that I've ever encountered in my life. Oh God, I'm not sure how this is gonna work out, but I feel like it's not gonna be good on my lines. It's like a paste. A paste? This is crazy. It actually is maybe slightly lighter. Yeah, it's definitely slightly lighter than my foundation, so that's good. Definitely more yellow than C5 in the Conceal and Define. Guess we'll just blend it out and hope for the best. Okay, so wasn't expecting that to blend so easily. Wow, look at the shine. This is just a really surprising product for me. I was not expecting it to be that thick, and I was not expecting it to have like a dewy finish. It really, given how thick it was, it feels so lightweight. Look how shiny I look. What is happening? I have never seen a concealer like this. I look like I've been out in the rain. What is happening, guys? I just don't know what's happening. The Conceal and Define definitely says it's a matte concealer, whereas this one didn't say a finish. I'm quickly going to set this down with my MAC Patrick Star powder. I'm going to go quite heavy because of all that shine. I feel like it will need a lot of powder. As you can see, it's still really looking quite radiant, foundation and the concealer. Even though I've set all the concealer down with powder, it's still looking quite radiant. It's definitely creased into my fine lines, which more or less every concealer does. This is definitely not the best as far as my lines. You can see just as I stretch my face, that creasing that's gone on there, it's really not covering too much my darkness. I definitely say it's more medium than full. The foundation is still very dewy. Yeah, so I feel like this is not gonna be for you if you are oily. Skins, however, very hydrating. It has really soaked into the lines of my forehead and they look probably the worst I've seen them for a long time. So it's not going to be for mature skins either. I definitely say it's more medium to full. It's definitely not on that Gooey or Huda level of like a full-on concrete mask. I can still, you know, see skin. It still does look very natural. It still does look smooth. It has covered, you know, the majority of things like redness and stuff like that, but you can see like some beauty marks just showing through. Definitely wouldn't recommend building this up to really get much more coverage than this, because I do feel like bad things will start to happen. It feels like the sort of foundation where it will get cakey and heavy very quickly just because of the way it's sort of soaking into my lines and things like that and those areas. So I feel like it would cake up if we were to try and build coverage from here. Pretty happy with the shade of the foundation. I think it's a really good match for like my body. I have had to take it down my neck because my neck is very pale, but yeah, I think this is probably the closest for me. As you can probably, I don't know if you'll see on camera, but my body is very olive. So this is definitely more of a yellow tone, so it's not perfect, but I think with a number of shades, it's probably the best we're going to get. I've just gone past 10:30, so I'm gonna finish the rest of my makeup, take a flash photo to see how the flashback does, and then we'll be back. There doesn't seem to be any kind of white cast happening, which is really, really good, and I guess you would expect given that it doesn't have any SPF in there, so that is a bonus. Okay, so I am back. I've finished the rest of my makeup. I've been pottering around. So we have had this foundation on now for about an hour and I'm really liking it. I'm really liking the finish of it. It is probably the dewiest foundation that I have, that I remember trying. It is very, very dewy. I didn't have any issues really putting products on top. I did not set it with powder. I would definitely recommend setting it with powder. I never do when I'm trying a foundation for the first time, and I don't ever really set my foundations with powder because I just don't like it. I like dewy foundations, I like a dewy finish, and I have normal skin. So generally foundations don't need setting on me. I definitely recommend setting this foundation with powder before you go with other products, because I felt like when I started to bronze, there was like a hint of the product moving underneath, and actually looks fine. I've checked, there's nothing's moved, nothing's, you know, budged or gone cakey or done anything funky. However, I felt like I was on the edge. So if like me, you have normal skin and you don't like setting with powder, or you have dry skin and you don't like setting with powder, I think you'll be fine, but just go in with a light, gentle touch with like your bronzers and blushes and everything on top. But yeah, I didn't have any problems. Everything went on really nicely. It stayed, as you can see, really dewy and fresh. I think the colour has not changed as far as I can tell. I'd love to know what you guys think. I think it's a really good match for my body. But yeah, at this stage, I'm really liking it. The concealer is a different story. Definitely really aged me, like it's sunk into every line. It looks quite heavy. I've tried to sort of sort it out with powder, but it's just not helping. I will definitely, as always, try it out a few more times, try and use less, try and use more powder, maybe bake with it and see if that helps it out. But yeah, the coverage just isn't really there. It's definitely more of a medium. You can still see my darkness. So therefore, if I use less product, I'm not even gonna go to this coverage. It is very dewy of a finish, the concealer, which I've never seen before. I think if you are really young and you don't have problems like lines and wrinkles like me, and you just want a hydrating, luminous, all over finish, then it would probably be absolutely perfect for you. But with me, by the time I had it added, like, you know, a lot of powder to try and combat the creasing and all of that, it's still looking really, really dewy, which I like, and it feels pretty lightweight. I feel like I'm wearing foundation and I feel like I'm wearing concealer, but it's definitely not heavy like the Shape Tape feels. It definitely feels lighter and more hydrating than that. Coverage isn't quite where I want it to be, and it's definitely not being particularly kind to my lines. For me, I would definitely plump for the Conceal and Define over this one. Having said all of that, you know me, you know how I change my mind throughout the day, which is why I do the wear test. But I am going to keep an open mind throughout the day, because you know how foundation works. Sometimes you put it on and then a few hours later you're like, what is going on? Or you just grow to love the foundation throughout the day. As at the moment, I'm really liking it. I'm loving the dewy finish. So let's just see what happens over the next 8 hours, and I will be back. Bye bye for now. Okay, so we are back, and it is just coming up to 6:20, so we are approaching the 8-hour mark. Now, you may not be able to tell until we zoom in and shut the lights down and all of that, but I am dewy. I am dewier than I have ever been in my entire life. I am probably beyond dewy into a whole other word. I have liked the foundation today. I really like it. My husband was a little confused as to why I was so wet looking. Let's zoom you in and you can see what we're talking about. So here we are, lights down, zoomed in, and you can see what I'm talking about. It looks even worse in the monitor than it does in person. Okay, I was worried you wouldn't be able to see what I was talking about, but clearly you can. Now, I do not have oily skin. I don't think I've ever looked oily like this before in my life, so this is all the foundation. So first thing is, I cannot warn you more strongly if you have oily skin to stay well away from this foundation, because if it did this to me and I have normal skin, just imagine for a second what it would do to you if you have oily skin. Obviously, I 100% will need to set this foundation with powder, which I don't have any foundations that I feel like I have to set with powder. This is the first for me. So yeah, I never really set foundation with powder. Obviously, I will have to heavily set this one with powder. Having said that, for how oily this looks, it's still on. Like, even on my nose, it's still on. Nothing weird has happened. It is like really soaked into my lines that we talked about at the beginning, but it's still on. There's no fading, really. You can still see blush, bronzer, highlight. I mean, my whole face is highlighted. So it's actually worn okay. It's just that it clearly needs really heavily setting with powder, even for someone with normal skin. The concealer is not doing well. Now, I will take some of the blame that I probably used too much because I did not know how thick it was going to be. So yeah, I won't completely bash the concealer just yet, because I want to try it again with using a much smaller amount and really heavily setting that with powder before I'm fully like, it's a no from me. But today, it's a no from me. I mean, look. It's aged me. I actually wanted to take it off. If I hadn't been doing this video, I would have taken it off. Yeah, it's really badly creased. It's really all up in my lines, not flattering at all. But again, it has hung in there. It's still there. Its coverage is pretty good. But yeah, I'm gonna try it one more time and I'll let you know in the comments below how it is using a much lesser amount. So yeah, the summary is, if you have normal skin or maybe even dry skin, set it with powder. If you have oily skin, do not touch it with a barge pole. If, like me, you love a dewy finish, this is gonna be for you. It wears well, it's nice, it's lightweight, it's not been uncomfortable to wear. I've really liked it. I went for a coffee with my husband at like 2 o'clock this afternoon, and I looked in the mirror and everything looked really good. Still dewy, but good. So I'd say it's literally since 3 o'clock. So probably at the like 4 or 5 hour mark, this started to happen. I really think I will wear it again and set with powder and see how it goes, because I really like the dewy finish and I really quite like the shade on me as well. I think on the main body of my skin, as in like here, it looks really, really nice, smooth, flawless. Love the dewy finish until about 2 hours ago. And the fact that despite getting this shiny, it hasn't disappeared even from the tip of my nose, is a really good sign for how it would wear if I had set it with powder or maybe used a setting spray. So I think actually a pretty good thumbs up if you set it with powder. So there you have it. As always, I will let you know down in the comments how I get on trying this concealer again over the next couple of days and trying the foundation again and setting it over the next few days. Any questions, let me know down below. Really hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe before you go so we can see each other again. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.